In 1980, a young Japanese man named Masashi Sata came to China. He traveled along the Yangtze River, passing through Shanghai, Jiangsu, Hubei, Sichuan, and other places, capturing a large amount of precious footage. For the ever-flowing Yangtze River, these images were just a brief glance, but this fleeting glimpse recorded China's historical changes. In order to ensure image clarity, Masashi Sata insisted on using 35mm film to shoot. The cities along the Yangtze River are numerous, and the cost of the film was enormous. It ultimately took 1,130,000 feet of film to complete all the shooting. This amount of film could be used by today's directors to make more than a dozen movies. Due to the production costs of the trip to China far exceeding the budget, Masashi Sata incurred a massive debt of 28 billion yen, which he did not fully repay until he was 60 years old. In the gentle breeze of the early morning, a fleeting department store, like a time machine, takes us back to the old Shanghai in our memories. That year, Nanjing Road had not yet become a pedestrian street, but its bustling atmosphere was no less than today's, with a few old buses interspersed on the main road, and private cars were very few at that time. Taking advantage of his trip to Shanghai, Masashi Sata visited 98-year-old Su Juxian in a simple old house and asked him to write the title of the film. Mr. Su, born in the 8th year of the Guangxu reign, was the last scholar of the Qing dynasty. He had been practicing calligraphy since childhood and had high attainments in it, known as the Southern Immortal and Northern Buddha. Even at nearly 100 years old, his brushstrokes were still strong and powerful, without the slightest tremor. As his name suggests, Mr. Su lived until he was 110 years old before passing away. Traveling upstream along the Yangtze River on the Dongfanghong passenger ship, we arrived at the busy trading delta. Since the Sui and Tang dynasties, Jiangnan's rice, silk, and exquisite porcelain have been transported to the north by these traditional wooden sailboats. Each boat here was a home, and boatmen lived on the boats for generations, making a living by transporting goods. Families with children would generally tie a rope to prevent them from falling into the water. It is often said that China has three hardships: punting boats, forging iron, and grinding tofu. In the past, boatmen had to endure harsh and changeable weather conditions while suffering from the exploitation of boat bosses, making life extremely difficult. It was not until after 1949 that the lives of boatmen improved significantly. The bedrooms and kitchens in the cabins were small, but they had all the essentials, such as oil, salt, firewood, rice, clothing, and bedding. It can be said that although the sparrow may be small, it has all the vital organs. Nanjing is most proud of its Yangtze River Bridge, the first highway and railway bridge in China designed, constructed, and built independently. It is 6.8 kilometers long and took 8 years to build, officially opening in 1968. To test the quality of the bridge, the commander of the Nanjing military region, Su Shiyu, directly dispatched hundreds of tanks to cross the bridge simultaneously. Therefore, although the traffic volume later exceeded the design capacity by more than 3 times, the bridge could still operate normally. On Nanjing streets, the most common means of transportation were old-fashioned bicycles, domestically produced changsha buses, old liberation trucks, and electric tricycles. Those born in the 90s and aughts may have never even heard of them. Passing through the misty rain of Jiangnan and over the hills and valleys, we arrived at the simple and tranquil countryside of Nanjing. People lived leisurely here, and the cattle walked slowly. 2 mischievous boys floated on the muddy river, laughing and playing while catching fish and shrimp. On his journey, Masashi Sata also encountered a lost puppy, which he adopted and took along on his travels.
もう絵に描いたようなものすごい打鍵だけど、これが可愛いんだな。名前は
Traveling along the Yangtze River, we arrived at Jingdezhen, the porcelain capital of China. Here, they have always adhered to the traditional methods of the Ming and Qing dynasties to make porcelain. The babbling streams continuously push the ancient water wheels, slowly crushing the high-quality porcelain stones excavated from the mountains. The porcelain powder and graphite are washed to remove impurities, mixed with water to form slurry and clay, and repeatedly trampled to expel air. This process is called tattoo. In the Qing dynasty, water buffaloes were used for trampling. Next, the clay is placed on a turntable of a wheel to shape the appearance of the porcelain, including processes such as throwing, trimming, and drying. This step tests the worker's skill and patience, so it is generally done by experienced masters. After the shaped greenware is dried, various patterns of landscapes or birds and animals are painted on it. Depending on the shape of the porcelain, different methods such as swinging, blowing, pouring, and smearing are used to apply the glaze. Firing is the last and most critical step in making porcelain because different temperature points will result in different colors of the porcelain. If the fire is too strong or too weak, all the porcelain in the kiln will be ruined, and all previous efforts will be wasted. Therefore, there is a saying in the industry, born in shaping, dead in firing. It means 70% depends on people and 30% on heaven. During the firing process, the master must stay close and constantly adjust the temperature based on the situation. After opening the kiln, any porcelain with flaws will be smashed on the spot. Qualified porcelain is packed in straw and shipped by sailboat to various parts of the country or even exported abroad. The Gezhouba Water Control Project in Yichang, Hubei, began construction in 1974. The sand and stone excavated amounted to more than 80 million cubic meters. If piled into a wall 1 meter high and 1 meter wide, it could circle the earth more than twice. In January 1981, with heavy trucks dumping load after load of stone into the river, the Yangtze River completed its first historical damming. From Yichang, traveling upstream for more than 200 kilometers, we arrived at Fengjie County. Within Fengjie County lies Baidi City, an important site from the Three Kingdoms period. During the Three Kingdoms, Liu Bei, defeated at Yiling, fell seriously ill in Baidi City. On his deathbed, he entrusted everything to Zhuge Liang, especially the famous words, "If my son is not talented, you may take the throne yourself." This has become a timeless story. In the tea houses of Fengjie County, listening to storytellers recounting the tales of the Three Kingdoms is an immersive and unforgettable experience. During Masashi Sada's visit to Fengjie County, it happened to be National Day, so the entire county was immersed in a joyful atmosphere. The market was filled with vendors, including masters who cleaned ears and repaired teeth, tailors who mended clothes and pants, and even people selling medicinal liquor for injuries, although the authenticity was uncertain. Chongqing was the final stop of the Dongfanghong passenger ship. Due to its steep terrain, this city is known as the Mountain City. To make travel more convenient for residents, the famous bridge expert Mao Yixing designed and built a passenger cable car at Kaoshimen Wharf in 1945. In the following years, several more cable car lines were added. In the 1980s, a ticket for the cable car's uphill trip cost 3 fun, while the downhill trip cost 2 fun. Later, as Chongqing's transportation developed, this special means of transportation gradually faded from history. During the War of Resistance against Japan, Chongqing, as the provisional capital, was heavily bombed by the Japanese army. Many air raid shelters from that time can still be seen in the streets and alleys of the city. Later, to make the best use of them, people began storing fruits, selling hot pot, and even preserving chicken, duck, fish, and meat in these shelters. Today, it takes only 1.5 hours to travel from Chongqing to Chengdu by high-speed rail, but in the 1980s, a steam train with a speed of 60 km per hour took 12 hours to reach Chengdu from Chongqing. The fertile land of Chengdu has been known as the land of abundance since ancient times. Its rich products have also created various local snacks. Take Chengdu's famous snack, Dan Dan noodles, for example. The seasoning alone includes more than 10 kinds. There is also freshly baked egg cake using a charcoal stove, costing only 5 fen each. It is sweet but not greasy, crispy, and delicious. During this trip to China, Masashi Sada traveled more than 3,000 kilometers along the towns of the Yangtze River. This Yangtze River is not only a documentary but also a surreal travel poem. In the original film, we can see precious historical images of China at that time and feel Masashi Sada's unrestrained temperament and deep love and affection for China. Perhaps, as the Japanese Prime Minister said during his visit to Dunhuang, China is the source of Japanese culture and the spiritual home of the Japanese people.